Kelvin Adu stood at the edge of the highway, grease smeared across his shirt, watching the luxury SUV roar back to life. The woman behind the wheel, elegant, powerful, clearly wealthy, smiled gratefully. But Kelvin's heart wasn't celebrating. His phone screen glared back at him. 9:47 a.m. His interview at Titan Core Petro Labs started at 9:30. He was late. And in that moment, staring at the dust cloud left by her departing vehicle, Kelvin had no idea he'd just made the biggest mistake, or the best decision, of his entire life. 6 months earlier, everything had been different. Kelvin had walked through the gates of Dynafuel Industries every morning with his head held high, his engineering badge clipped to his chest like a badge of honor. He was good at what he did, brilliant even. Refinery systems were complex mazes of pressure valves, catalytic converters, and thermal regulators. But Kelvin understood them like a musician understood notes. He could diagnose a malfunction from the sound of a compressor or the flicker of a gauge needle. But brilliance couldn't save him from economics. When the oil prices crashed and the national currency tumbled, Dynafuel Industries folded within weeks. The closure was sudden, brutal, and unapologetic. 200 employees, engineers, technicians, administrative staff, received termination letters on a Friday afternoon. By Monday, the facility was locked, the equipment auctioned off to foreign buyers. Kelvin and his wife Mara had no choice but to leave their comfortable apartment in the upscale Garden Heights district of Port Elmina. They moved to a cramped 2-bedroom flat in the Riverside Quarter, a neighborhood where the street smelled of fried fish and diesel exhaust, where the power cut out twice a day, and where their neighbors' arguments echoed through paper-thin walls. If you're already hooked by Kelvin's journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. And drop a comment telling us what you'd do in Kelvin's shoes. Mara took the fall harder than Kelvin expected. "This is temporary," Kelvin assured her on their first night in the new flat, unpacking boxes by candlelight during another blackout. "I'll find something soon. My credentials are solid." Mara said nothing. She just stared at the peeling wallpaper, her jaw tight. In the first month, Kelvin sent out 47 applications. He received 3 responses, all rejections. The engineering sector had contracted. Everyone was hiring internally, or not hiring at all. The few positions available attracted hundreds of candidates, and Kelvin's resume, however impressive, drowned in the flood. By the second month, the bills began piling up. Rent, electricity, water. Mara's mother's medical expenses. The small severance package from Dynafuel evaporated like morning mist. "How much longer?" Mara asked one evening, her voice cold. Kelvin looked up from his laptop, where another job portal glared back at him with 0 new matches. "I'm doing everything I can, Mara." "Are you?" She crossed her arms. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just waiting. Hoping. Like some kind of beggar." The word stung. "I'm not a beggar. I'm an engineer." "Then act like one." Her voice rose, sharp enough to cut. "Go out there. Knock on doors. Call people. Do something instead of sitting here refreshing the same websites every night." Kelvin swallowed the anger rising in his throat. He wanted to shout back, to tell her that he'd been trying, that the world didn't work the way it used to, that connections mattered more than competence now. But he stayed silent. Arguments with Mara had become frequent, exhausting, and ultimately pointless. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. Kelvin sat alone in the dim light of their living room, the hum of the neighbor's generator vibrating through the walls. He felt small, worthless, like a man slowly dissolving. Then, on a Tuesday morning in his 3rd month of unemployment, his phone rang. "Is this Mr. Kelvin Adu?" a professional female voice asked. "Yes, speaking." "This is Rima Okoro, from Titan Core Petro Labs PLC. We reviewed your application for the Systems Integration Engineer position, and we'd like to invite you for an interview. Kelvin's heart nearly stopped. Titan Core Petro Labs was one of the largest petrochemical companies in West Africa. Getting in there would change everything. Yes, absolutely, Kelvin stammered. When? This Thursday at 9:30 a.m., our headquarters in Central Port Elmina. Please bring your credentials and be punctual. We have a tight schedule. I'll be there, thank you. When he told Mara, she actually smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen in weeks. Don't mess this up, Kelvin, she said, her tone softer, but still edged with warning. This is it. This is our chance to get back to normal. I won't, he promised. Thursday morning arrived with cruel clarity. Kelvin woke at 5:30 a.m., showered, and pressed his only suit, a charcoal gray ensemble that had seen better days, but still looked professional enough. He shaved carefully, polished his shoes, and triple-checked his folder. Resume, certificates, reference letters, portfolio of past projects. Mara handed him a flask of coffee. Be confident, she said. Remember who you are. He nodded, kissed her forehead, and left. The bus ride into the city took 40 minutes. Kelvin sat by the window, mentally rehearsing answers to potential interview questions. He felt the old confidence returning, the sense that he belonged in boardrooms and control centers, not cramped flats with leaking ceilings. At 8:50 a.m., he got off at the Makora Junction and began the 15-minute walk towards Central Port Elmina. The headquarters of Titan Core Petro Labs loomed in the distance, a gleaming glass tower reflecting the morning sun. He was going to make it. On time. Prepared. Ready. Then he saw her. A black SUV, sleek, expensive, with tinted windows, sat at an awkward angle on the shoulder of the road. The hood was popped open, and a woman in a burgundy business suit stood beside it, phone pressed to her ear, frustration written across her face. Kelvin slowed his pace. Keep walking, a voice in his head warned. You don't have time. But something pulled at him. Maybe it was the way she kept glancing at her watch. Maybe it was the desperation in her posture. Maybe it was simply who Kelvin was, a man who couldn't ignore someone in need. He stopped. Excuse me, he called out. Do you need help? The woman turned. She was in her late 40s, sharply dressed, with an air of authority that came from years of commanding rooms. Her eyes were tired, but fierce. My car won't start, she said, exasperated, and my driver isn't picking up. I have a board meeting in 30 minutes across town. Kelvin glanced at his watch. 9:02 a.m. I can take a look, he heard himself say. You know cars? I'm an engineer. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Please. Anything. Kelvin approached the vehicle, set his folder on the hood, and leaned over the engine. The smell of oil and coolant filled his nostrils. A familiar, almost comforting scent. He checked the battery terminals first. Corroded. He wiggled them gently. Loose. Do you have any tools? He asked. In the trunk. He found a basic toolkit and went to work, tightening the terminals, cleaning the corrosion with a rag. Then he checked the alternator belt. Worn but functional. He moved to the fuel line next, listening carefully. Try starting it, he called. She turned the key. The engine coughed but didn't catch. Kelvin frowned, then noticed a small puddle beneath the car. Coolant. He traced the hose and found a small crack near the connector. You've got a coolant leak, he said. It's minor, but it's causing the engine to overheat and shut down as a safety measure. Can you fix it? Kelvin hesitated. Properly fixing it required a replacement hose, but he could rig a temporary seal using electrical tape and pressure. It wouldn't last long, but it would get her to her meeting. I can get you running, he said, but you'll need a mechanic to replace this hose today. Just get me moving, He worked quickly, his hands moving with the muscle memory of years spent in refineries. Tape, pressure, test, tape again. 9:23 a.m. Try now. She turned the key. The engine roared to life. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kelvin wiped his hands on the rack, his shirt now streaked with grease and oil. No problem. Just get that hose replaced. She reached into her purse and pulled out several bills. Please, take this. No, ma'am. I'm just glad I could help. She looked at him with something between surprise and respect. What's your name? Kelvin. Kelvin Adu. I'm Ivana Cross. She extended her hand. He shook it, her grip firm and warm. Thank you, Kelvin. You've saved me today. He smiled, but his stomach twisted as he glanced at his watch. 9:28 a.m. I have to go, he said, grabbing his folder. Where are you headed? Job interview, Central Port Elmina. Her eyes widened slightly. You're going to be late. I know. He started running. His dress shoes slapped against the pavement as he sprinted down the sidewalk, his folder clutched to his chest. Sweat poured down his face. His lungs burned. He checked his watch again as he reached the Titan Core building. 9:47 a.m., 17 minutes late. The reception area was pristine. Marble floors, leather chairs, a massive company logo etched into the wall. Kelvin approached the desk, breathless, his shirt disheveled and stained. I'm here for the 9:30 interview, he gasped. Kelvin Adu. The receptionist barely looked up. You're late. I know, but the panel doesn't accept late candidates. Company policy. Please, if I could just explain. I'm sorry, Mr. Adu. You'll have to reapply next cycle. The words hit him like a punch. He stood there, speechless, as other candidates walked past him toward the elevators. People who'd arrived on time. People who hadn't stopped to help a stranger. He turned and walked out, his legs heavy, his mind numb. The bus ride home felt like a descent into hell. Every bump, every stop, every minute stretched into eternity. Kelvin stared out the window, replaying the morning in his head. He should have kept walking. He should have prioritized himself. He should have been selfish. When he opened the door to their flat, Mara looked up from the couch, hope bright in her eyes. How did it go? Kelvin set his folder down slowly. I didn't get in. What? Why? I was late. Her expression shifted from confusion to anger in seconds. Late? How could you be late? You left early. I stopped to help someone. You stopped? She stood abruptly. You stopped to help someone? Are you serious? Her car broke down. She needed... I don't care what she needed. Mara's voice cracked. What about what we need, Kelvin? What about our bills? Our rent? What about me? Mara, please! No! She grabbed her purse. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep watching you throw opportunities away because you want to be some kind of saint. Where are you going? Anywhere but here. She walked to the bedroom and began throwing clothes into a bag. Mara, don't. I'm done, Kelvin. I'm done being poor. I'm done being embarrassed. I'm done waiting for you to figure your life out. She zipped the bag, walked back to the living room, and pulled off her wedding ring. She set it on the table with a soft clink. I'm staying with my cousin in Upper City. Don't call me. The door slammed behind her. Kelvin stood alone in the silence, staring at the gold band on the table. And for the first time in months, he cried. This is the moment that breaks most people. But will it break Kelvin? If you're feeling this story, smash that like button and leave a comment. Let us know if you think Mara was wrong or if Kelvin made a mistake. Days blurred into weeks. Kelvin stopped counting rejections. He stopped checking his phone every hour. He stopped hoping. Instead, he walked. One morning, he found himself at the Sunrise construction yard on the outskirts of Port Elmina. Men in hard hats and dust-covered overalls hauled bricks, Mixed cement, welded steel beams. It was loud, chaotic, and brutal. "You looking for work?" a foreman asked, eyeing Kelvin's clean clothes. "Yes." "Ever done construction?" "No, but I can learn." The foreman snorted. "We need bodies, not learners. But if you're desperate, I'll pay you daily. 50 naira a day. Cash. 50 naira. Barely enough for 2 meals. I'll take it." The work was hell. Kelvin carried bags of cement that weighed more than he did. He dug trenches under the merciless sun. He mixed sand and gravel until his hands bled. Every muscle in his body screamed. Every night, he collapsed onto his mattress, too exhausted to even shower properly. But he didn't quit. During lunch breaks, while the other workers joked and smoked cigarettes, Kelvin sat in the shade with his phone, submitting applications. His data plan was the cheapest available, but he made it work. One afternoon, a car slowed near the site, a Mercedes with tinted windows. Kelvin looked up briefly, then returned to his wheelbarrow. He didn't notice the woman in the back seat staring at him through the glass. Ivana Cross couldn't believe her eyes. "Stop the car," she told her driver. "Ma'am?" "Stop." The vehicle pulled over. Ivana stepped out, her heels clicking against the gravel. She walked toward the construction site, her security detail trailing behind. "Excuse me," she called to the foreman. "I need to speak with one of your workers." The foreman looked confused. "Which one?" She pointed. "Him." Kelvin turned, wiping sweat from his face. When he saw her, his heart stopped. Madam Ivana Cross, the woman from the highway. She walked toward him, her expression a mixture of shock and sadness. "Kelvin?" He set down the wheelbarrow, suddenly aware of how filthy he was, covered in dust, his clothes torn, his hands calloused and scarred. "Madame Cross, what are you doing here?" He looked away. "Working." "But you're an engineer." "I was an engineer." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "What happened?" "The interview. I didn't get in, because I was late." He met her eyes. "Because I stopped to help you." The weight of those words hung between them. Ivana's face softened. "Come with me." "What?" "You're not staying here. Not another day." She turned to the foreman. "How much does he owe you?" "Nothing, ma'am. He's paid daily." "Then he's done." She looked at Kelvin. "Get in the car." "Madam, I can't just—" "Yes, you can." Her tone left no room for argument. "You helped me when you had everything to lose. Now I'm helping you. Get in the car, Kelvin." 2 days later, Kelvin sat in a conference room at CrossChem Global, facing a panel of executives. Ivana had arranged the interview personally. "Walk us through your approach to optimizing catalytic cracking units," one of the panelists asked. Kelvin took a breath and began explaining, his confidence returning with every word. He sketched diagrams on the whiteboard, referenced case studies from his time at Dynafuel, proposed innovative solutions for efficiency and safety. When he finished, the room was silent. Then the lead panelist smiled. "Mr. Adu, when can you start?" Kelvin blinked. "You're offering me the position." "We're offering you the position of Technical Operations Supervisor. Madam Cross spoke highly of you. But frankly, your knowledge speaks for itself." Kelvin's voice cracked. "I can start immediately." Within 3 months, Kelvin transformed CrossChem's operations. He introduced predictive maintenance protocols that reduced downtime by 30%. He redesigned the thermal management system, cutting energy costs by 12%. He trained junior engineers, sharing his expertise freely. His reputation grew. 6 months into his tenure, he was promoted to Senior Operations Manager. He moved into a modest but comfortable apartment in New Haven, a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and reliable electricity. He bought new clothes, he ate proper meals, he slept without nightmares, and every Sunday, he visited the Sunrise construction yard, not to work, to encourage. He brought food for the crew, shared his story, reminded them that circumstances were temporary, but character was permanent. "Don't give up," he told them. "I was where you are. I know how it feels. But keep pushing. Your breakthrough is coming." Then, one evening, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Kelvin, it's Mara. I saw your interview on CrossChem's social media. Can we talk?" He stared at the message for a long time. They met at a cafe in central Port Elmina. Mara looked different, more polished, more confident. But her eyes held something Kelvin hadn't seen before: regret. "You look good," she said softly. "Thank you. I saw what you've accomplished. I'm proud of you." Kelvin nodded, but said nothing. "I was wrong," Mara continued, her voice breaking. "I was cruel. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I'm so sorry, Kelvin. I want to come back. I want us to try again." Kelvin took a sip of his coffee, letting the silence stretch. "Mara," he finally said, "I forgive you." Hope flashed across her face. "But I can't go back," he continued gently. "What we had, it broke under pressure. And I've learned that I need someone who stands with me in the storm, not someone who runs when the rain starts." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Please, I've changed. Maybe you have. But I've changed too, and I've learned to value my peace." He stood, placed money on the table for both their drinks, and extended his hand. "I wish you well, Mara. I really do." She took his hand, sobbing quietly. Kelvin walked out into the evening air, feeling lighter than he had in years. The most intense moment is here. Kelvin's decision will shape everything. If this story is hitting you hard, drop a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to see more stories like this. Months later, Kelvin stood outside the Sunrise construction yard during lunch break, handing out bottled water and sandwiches. One of the younger workers approached him. "Mr. Adu, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you do it? How did you survive when everything fell apart?" Kelvin thought for a moment. "I didn't just survive," he said. "I decided that my circumstances wouldn't define me. I worked when I had no hope. I helped others when I had nothing to give. And somehow, that opened doors I never saw coming." "But weren't you angry when you missed that interview?" Kelvin smiled. "I was furious. But later, I realized something. If I'd gotten that job at Titan Corps, I'd probably still be there, doing decent work, living a decent life. But I wouldn't have met Madam Cross again. I wouldn't be at CrossChem. I wouldn't be here, talking to you." He paused, looking at the construction site, the place that had humbled him, broken him, and ultimately strengthened him. "Sometimes," Kelvin said quietly, "the road that delays you is the road that saves you. The detour you curse is actually the path you were meant to walk all along." The young worker nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. Kelvin handed him another sandwich. "Keep going. Your story isn't over yet." As the sun set over Port Elmina, casting golden light across the construction yard, Kelvin felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude. Not for the success, not for the salary, not for the title, but for the broken SUV on a highway 6 months ago, for the choice to stop, for the kindness that cost him everything, and gave him everything. Because in the end, Kelvin Adu learned that integrity doesn't always pay off immediately, but it always pays. If Kelvin's journey inspired you, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment about what this story taught you, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support keeps these stories coming. Until next time, remember, delays are not denials. They're redirections to something better.